Hi, Graham.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Where are you?
Kelowna.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I'm
where are you? This looks like a garden shed or something.
well, this was my COVID winter project. I built a studio in our
Oh my
backyard.
goodness, there you go. I wasn't too far off. That's cool.
No, so
Congrats.
like this is a little loft space. This is my office up here, and then it's not done yet, but
Oh,
downstairs
cool. Oh,
is
nice.
my art space.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a serious endeavor. Good for you.
So Um, now I just edited another session, so I'm just gonna zip off for 1 second and get some water and a snack, and I'll be right back, but I will make you co-host first.
Yeah, and my partner in crime will be here in a second. He's literally sitting across the table from me.
Oh,
Um,
I see him joining there.
oh yeah, there. Yeah, so if you just want to are you going to give us just, yeah, both co-host access?
Yeah,
Perfect.
got a weird screen configuration going on right now, and I can't figure out where to get to my third screen with my mouse. That's where my participants list just came up. Come on.
Pam, are you hanging out in like a treehouse?
Kinda. I made this studio over COVID winter in my backyard.
Nice. I was like, it looks
And
like a little club, like a clubhouse.
yeah, so it is kind of like that. And I love it. And I get like space from the house because I only teach online now and I have been for maybe 4 years. And oh gosh, it's just nice to have like a different little space. Okay. So thank you, both of you. And yeah, I was just saying to Graham, I'm just going to pop out for a second and get a snack. Once I make you both co-host. Do you plan on using breakout rooms? Do you know?
We're not going to. No,
Okay.
we know how to use them, but yeah, in order to use breakout room, you'd have to make us the actual host, right?
Yes, which I can do, or I can make the breakout rooms for you too.
Yeah, no, we're fine. I don't.
Okay.
I think
we
we only
got
have
a
16 people or something.
fairly small number. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Sounds good. Do you want to try the advance in the slides there, Graham? Really? Okay, hold on. Let's just try this. Plug this back in again. Does it do anything? Really? That's interesting. Like you'd think that, okay, well, I mean, just say, oh, there you go. Now it's happening. Power wasn't on? I just clicked it once and then, oh, maybe. I do like when I can see, like how come I can't see all the meeting? Where's my meeting controls? Oh, they're all up here. That over.
All is well in here?
Oh yeah, we're figuring out just how we're driving the same vehicle together.
Perfect. Well, and welcome to everybody who's popping in already. I'm going to throw in the chat the link to our shared doc for this session. And feel free to add any notes into it as we're going along. If somebody puts something especially funny in the chat, I'll be sure to copy it over to there.
Let's- Okay. Hey folks, welcome. I just threw the link to our slide deck in the chat, and there's a bunch of little resources that we like to kind of pepper through it, as I know you've seen before. So feel free to open that if it helps at all.
Awesome. That's great to have that available. And thanks and welcome Tobias and Graham for being here and putting this on for all of us. I'm really stoked to learn about it. I know nothing about Minga. And if anybody's having technical issues or anything during the presentation, just send me a private chat. And for the next 45 minutes, we'll all learn together, and definitely, you know, if it's okay with you, Graham and Tobias, people can turn on their mics if they have a question. And
absolutely, yeah, we got a nice small room here, so let's try to as a result, we're not going to use breakout rooms because we thought there's not that much of a point to break out with 11 people. So we can get intimate and interactive.
Great. Well, I passed it on to you both, and we'll have some fun.
Thanks, Pam.
Okay, thanks, Pam. Yeah, I mean, thank you for joining us. You know, this presentation is a little bit about our journey using a relatively new tool called Minga. Minga is actually a company right here in the Okanagan, and their claim to fame right now, or what they're trying to promote, is really this like safe social networking tool. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that journey. Before we do, we'd just like to do a little acknowledgement. Just acknowledge that we're sharing this learning from the beautiful Okanagan Valley, the traditional unceded territory of the Syilx Okanagan people. You know, such a great place to live. We're thankful for the trees, the land, the people. The weather's been pretty decent here the last few days, so we're starting to get tans. We're starting to get, it's nice and warm, and no, we're just happy to be able to share this learning with you. And so I'm going to pass the slide deck over to Graham for the first part of this, and he's going to talk a little bit about our kind of digital wellness focus.
Yeah, thanks, Tobias. We really wanted to anchor ourselves. It is our presentation about Minga, but I would say Minga is maybe the tool that's helping us in some minor way, albeit get to digital wellness. But digital wellness is really our anchor. It's our why for why we've started to do a bunch of different things in our district. And so you might have been, we are all kind of the proverbial tech geeks, probably in this whole conference. You're probably familiar with this concept of digital citizenship. It's been around for a while, and I find when Tobias and I, we're district consultants for Central Okanagan Public Schools. So our role, it sounds really complicated, but we really just support teachers with tech. So we are teachers ourselves. We go into classrooms physically or virtually right now when we support teachers. And one thing I've found in the past is when we talk about digital citizenship with kids, the eyes immediately roll. They're so used to, as soon as you say digital citizenship, they almost feel like the finger is going to start wagging right after that. And so we tried to take a little bit of a different approach with this digital wellness that we're going to kind of just anchor ourselves in a little bit this morning, and then talk about how Minga is a bit of a vehicle towards it. So if you get a chance, and maybe I'll get Tobias, you can throw that link in the chat just so it's interactive, but we have that website down at the bottom. I know a couple of our colleagues have presented at IT4K12 and different conferences, and I'm a little bit kind of selfish or maybe too proud of our work, but I think this is some of the best work in this area kind of in the province, and so we've got a lot of good feedback around it, and I think you'll see it's a bit of a different slant on kind of that digital citizenship piece. So in any event, maybe I did lose the ability to move slides, Tobias. Maybe. Yeah. Okay.
I'm just going to stop sharing, and I'll pass it off to you then.
Sure.
And that way I can actually put that link into the screen as well. Okay. Should be good.
Yeah, we're back on. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, so let's mosey on through. We were trying to be fancy today, and we were thinking we literally sit next to each other. So we kind of have like a COVID, there's like a monitor in between Tobias and I right here. So it's kind of like our sneeze guard. And so we were thinking that maybe this projector thing might allow me to move it but yeah. Is already our first fail. So here is a bit of our story, and this is tongue in cheek, of course. This is a fake text message. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but you can get, we use this with kids in the classroom sometimes. And we also want teachers to know that kids can make fake text messages that look super legit. But we kind of have this narrative in our district, and I don't think it's any different in other districts, whether you're face-to-face or online, is that there's a bunch of us that believe that we should just lock cell phones away. Let's just get rid of them. Let's just wait till kids are adults at 19, and then everything will be fine and we'll be good. And then there's other, people, which I'm guessing is probably more the people that are part of this conference, that, they realize that, cell phones are amazing. We can learn a ton from them. We communicate in different ways. Look at the way we're communicating right now, across the world. And so we kind of see these two different paradigms. And what we've kind of found is we found that they're both right. And so what we really realized in our district is we realized that we needed to do an inquiry on this. We needed to learn a little bit more about what was going on and help students, teachers, and families in this landscape, because this is another really unique thing. We talk about math education. Well, math, students and staff and parents are all different spots. I would argue in some cases when it comes to digital wellness, we're all, I don't know if the right word is struggle, but we're all really trying to figure out what does digital wellness look like, right? And so it was kind of a unique thing where we did this inquiry and we were actually trying to reach out to all these different stakeholders. And so just really, really quickly, we'll talk about this. We did a giant scan. If you're into the spirals of inquiry and you've heard about that, we talked to students at elementary, middle, and high in our district. We talked to teachers at elementary, middle, and high. We've had family courses. We just really tried to get a sense for what was going on with our students. And a couple really, really quick takeaways we'll share before I get on to the goods of Minga is that this was our favorite quote that we had. Stop telling us, this is from a grade 9 middle student, so they'll tell it like it is. Stop telling us what not to do with technology. Help us learn what to do instead. And again, that gets back to my kind of, my finger wagging point about kind of digital citizenship. And so we really, really like this. Another quote that kind of comes to mind is students just said, we want to talk about this, but we never get a chance to talk about this in school. We want to talk about how we can be safe online. We want to talk about how we can spread positivity online. And so, as I mentioned, we have a couple kind of clickable things. If you're in our interactive slide deck, you can get to our website. You can get to our digital wellness guide. But really, really quickly, and I probably did not share my audio. It's like it's my first rodeo here today. I wanted to just play a quick little video that gives you an overview of our digital wellness. Okay, so it's about 3 minutes, I think.
We live in a world that is full of technology. Smartphones, laptops, digital assistants, smart homes, artificial intelligence,
Okay, it really is like my first time trying this. It's nice to have Tobias in the same room where he can at least tell me that he's not seeing it. Oh, let's try this screen.
We live in a world that is full of technology. Smartphones, laptops, digital assistants, smart homes, artificial intelligence, the list goes on and on. The speed of change with technology is astounding, and one thing is for certain. Technology will continue to weave itself into the fabric of daily life for each and every one of us. Technology allows us to do so many great things. Learning is amplified by digital tools, and access to a world of information is at our fingertips. Communication with family and friends has never been more accessible, and we now have a window to our global community that we might never have imagined just a generation ago. Technology creates amazing opportunities for us, but it also raises some questions too. How much is too much? What are the impacts of technology on our physical health and well-being? How might technology influence us or distract us from other things? And we also know this isn't just about kids. This is the new reality for young people, seniors, and everyone in between. Technology will continue to evolve, and it will undoubtedly play a more significant role in our future. So questions like these have guided a team within Central Okanagan Public Schools to dive deep into an inquiry about what it truly means to live well in a digital world. We wanted to know how a learning community of schools, students, and families might best support each learner to develop the knowledge, skills, and dispositions required to lead healthy, happy, and productive lives in an increasingly digital world. Our learning together has resulted in the creation of Central Okanagan Public Schools' Guide to Digital Wellness for students, staff, and families. Our definition of digital wellness includes 5 interrelated elements and guided questions. Practice mindfulness. How do we balance our digital habits and self-regulate our own behaviors? Think critically. How do we think critically about what we see, hear, and contribute to online? Explore learning. How do we use technologies to explore our learning and pursue our passions? Spread positivity. How can digital tools help us to spread positivity, promote kindness, and demonstrate care for others? Be safe. What can we do to keep ourselves and others safe and secure in digital environments? We know that digital wellness means much more than just limiting screen time. How are you learning to live well in a digital world? We live in a world that is full.
Okay, so as you saw there was hopefully, a number of takeaways. We love that. Like, it's more than just limiting screen time. It is more than just digital citizenship, although digital citizenship is a part. We're really just trying to, find some balance. And I think the unique thing that we found in this journey is there's different ways of finding balance. I'll give you an example. I know that sleeping next to my phone next is not something I should be doing, yet I found some balance with it personally. It may not be the ideal thing. And so we have more recommendations than rules. We tried to take this balance where we're helping families, students, and staff figure out what that means for them. And so lastly, on the digital wellness stuff is we have a few resources that we'll share. These are all hyperlinks right here. We have a bunch of lesson plans that we've started to create, and we're exploring that in our system. We've actually created a digital wellness course for parents that you can, we'd be happy to share, or you could even come into it as a guest to take a look at it. We've had a unique partnership too with UBC Okanagan, and so they've actually done some research in our district, and they found, like as an example, that there was some research that was done in the early 2000s that said that anything over and above 2 hours of screen time for kids in a day was detrimental to their health. And UBC actually had kids with, I'm trying to forget what the name is, Tobias, but they were almost like little accelerometers that these kids were wearing on them. And they were tracking the kids in our district in this interesting pilot on their overall physical well-being, and found that, it wasn't having this huge detrimental effect like we had sometimes been led to believe. If you do get a chance, go and take a look at our digital wellness website. I'm just bringing it up really quickly for you. We have that video that you can take a look at, but we have all kinds of different resources. Like if we go into schools, we have different provocations, we have different picture books highlighted right there for you to kind of take a look at. And so the last thing that we wanted to, or I guess kind of the segue that we have, is that one of the things that you saw when we were talking about digital wellness there is we wanted to take a different approach to social media. We tend to hear social media is so bad, stay away from social media, just like, let's not do it. And yet we have all kinds of success stories in our district. I'll give you one off, and then we might elaborate on a little bit more. We have this Instagram page at one of our high schools called the Humans of Bushry. And what they did was they were celebrating all the different students at Mount Bushry, all the diversity that they have, staff members, parents, like, you had the custodian was in there, the vice principal. It was really unique. And what they were doing is they were just basically writing a profile and giving everybody kind of a voice in the school. It wasn't just the quarterback of the football team, if that kind of makes sense. Everybody kind of had a say. And so we realized, wow, like, social media can also be used for very positive things. And so that was where Minga kind of came in. And so maybe with that, with this lens of spreading positivity, I'll turn it back over to Tobias to elaborate on Minga. Do you want me to share back to you?
Sure, please.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's kind of where Minga stepped in. Actually, we can actually, in a way, thank the pandemic for some of the conversations that really kind of came up. So, back in the spring when the pandemic really hit, and all of our learners were learning remotely from home, schools were also panicking, realized that we don't really have a great way to connect and communicate with students. Sure, we can connect with parents. We have parent emails, we have parents' telephone numbers, but how do we connect with students? And so, this idea going, well, we need a tool to be able to reach out and connect with students. And at the same time, students have lost a lot of those connections and those pieces to the culture of the school, and that feeling of connection and with others. And so that's where Minga kind of stepped in. So Minga is a company, it's right here in the Okanagan. The platform's been developed. It was our solution to kind of like a safe social networking tool that we could use for students to actually have them learn, play, communicate with one another, try and build that culture and communication that was missing from schools when the pandemic hit. And so, it's a kind of a safe, friendly digital learning environment. As Graham shared, we know there's other tools out there, things like Snapchat and Instagram and all these other tools, but we know they're also not safe. We know that there's the anonymity behind people that can be, hiding behind fake emails and things like that. We know that for educators, there's always that blurring that line between kind of, you know, what you do in your personal life, and then, you know, if you're going to start sharing Instagram accounts with students and things like that, there's a lot of risk there. And so Minga is this kind of safe social networking tool. We use our district emails to sign students up, so there's no anonymity there. We also know all the data is not getting mined like it would be with those other tools. The data is stored here in Canada, in the Okanagan. And so it's become this tool. And then, as Graham had mentioned, around the digital wellness piece, we wanted something to give students access to where they could get a chance to play and you know, experience using social networking tools in a different way. So for the first part here, we just thought we don't have a very large group, but we do a little like kind of Zoom chat. We don't need to use breakout rooms, but just a couple questions, and we'll throw it up to the group, and you can either feel free to unmute your mic or you know, put it in the chat. But we know that communication has never been more important when we're being forced right now to be kind of socially distant. So maybe think about it a little ways. So what ways does your school, your organization currently foster online communication between students? And the other question would be, well, what challenges has your school had with communication? So just kind of throw it out there to the group.
I'm just going to chime in on this one because it's so interesting to me that, so I teach at a fully online school, and really, I don't think there's a way for the students to communicate with each other. We have, in some courses, there are discussion forums, but it's not something that people get excited about. And they're just, you know, answering a question, you know, they're not hanging out for sure in those places. And I find I have challenges in reaching out to students at a group level as well. I don't like the platforms we have for that. They don't foster your conversation. So I would love to see more of that be able to happen.
Yeah, it's a great point, Pam, and I can share a little bit of our perspective from our district. So Tobias and I had the unique perspective this year of supporting our online school that we have in district that obviously got way bigger during the pandemic. And one of the things that, you know, especially for students that just kind of didn't know what online learning was, is that the teachers also didn't know what kind of online learning was, nor did the administrators. It was kind of this new world. And that was the biggest kind of deficit that they felt, was kind of around student culture. Right. Of all those other things, like, you know, the administrators that I work with were saying that, like, they've never met their kiddos, right? Like they went into a Zoom meeting the other day and they're like, who are these guys, right? And so, like, we had to do different things. Like we created like a clubs thing that we did online to try to build some culture. And so holistically, though, across our district, the neat thing for Minga has been, it's been just a student first tool, if that makes sense. Like, we have different ways that we engage with parents, that we engage with staff. This was a unique way that we could reach out to students and hopefully also get students to kind of connect with one another to create some of that culture that is so important, especially when you have barriers like you're not seeing people face to face. A couple in the, do you want to tackle those ones in the chat, Tobias?
No, I was just seeing some of the comments coming through in the chat, which is great to see, you know, people trying to use certain tools like, you know, Microsoft Teams. You know, I heard was it Laura saying that, you know, Cleos launched Minga this year and they've kind of seen some success, taking baby steps. It's good. And as are we. Like, we're a large district, right? 24,000 students. We missed the boat early on in September, when, of course, there was so much uncertainty, to really say, okay, well, this is how we're going to communicate. So Graham and I have really kind of worked with individual schools trying to roll it out, but we have a district level Minga for our entire district. And then we have different school groups. And then within the different school groups, then we're seeing teachers and classrooms and things, you know, create those learning communities, those opportunities to connect with one another. Yeah, asynchronous tools would be tricky, right? Of course, you know, if you're never meeting face to face, like, how do people get to know each other? Because even using tools like Zoom, I mean, we've all experienced this. Zoom in large groups is not very welcoming and in terms of what you can do, but in a small groups, one-on-one, Zoom is a very useful tool, and you can really get to know your students, but you're never really going to get to know them if there's 45, 60 of them all in the room at a time. Graham had mentioned we try to do the e-clubs, and I tried to teach 20 grades between grades 6 and 9 how to code with using microbits. And something that would be totally doable in the classroom, and you can walk around and you could really see when students are struggling, but how do you tell what students are doing on their computer when they're supposed to be watching you, or you're looking at a blank screen, they've got their video turned off like this. So there are some challenges, and that's the teacher side of it. Like I said, the culture side was really the part that we were really trying to look at. How do we improve that communication and that culture? So kind of looking for the next part, we're just going to share a little bit about what Minga and kind of get into the tool a little bit. So Minga is really, the word Minga, we talked to Jason, I can't remember which culture it came from, but really is all about community. Like this term Minga is actually like a cultural piece, and it is about building community. And so there's the community aspect of it, okay, involving people in the communication. There's the messaging part. It can do direct messaging between teachers and students, not student to student. So there's some safety there. It also allows you to create groups. So I always use example, like we have tons of teams and things that run in our district, or sports teams, and coaches and teachers and parents are always trying to find tools that will help them out. And we've had things like Remind back in the day, and Team Snap, and some of these other tools. Same thing, like all of that is third-party data. It's being stored in the US, but Minga allows you to create groups, and you could invite parents if you wanted to, and have conversations between the teacher or the coach, the players and parents. Really this idea of creating celebrations. It has the ability to send out little polls and surveys, kind of fun little things. We've seen some schools use that to kind of create kind of like spirit days and cultural pieces at their school. And then there's the safety end of Minga. It uses artificial intelligence to flag posts. So, swear words and things like that get flagged. You have the ability to moderate content. You can mute users if there are some issues and things like that.
Can I interrupt to share a little bit of the moderation story just quickly?
Yeah.
We were blown away with how powerful the moderation was, and we're kind of also like against like heavy moderation, but we know that that's a point. There was one YouTube video that was flagged, and we couldn't figure out why it was flagged, and so I listened to this music video. I was at the 2 minutes and 30-second mark before it dropped the F-bomb, and so it actually is looking inside of YouTube videos. We had another one which the kids were working on making memes for a class, right? Awesome, and the kid included, and it was appropriate for the class, but it was of a handgun, right? And so right away we got notified that there was a handgun picture that was spread, and of course we had to do our due diligence on that, but they had some very intense, I guess, moderation. So I just wanted to point that out. Sorry, Tobias.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Graham. Okay, so we're going to give you a little bit of a Minga tour, so you can get a sense of what it looks like. And in the presentation today too, there is a little short 2-minute video. We're not going to share it just because we thought we'd do kind of a little bit of a live share instead. But it looks like a typical social networking page. You get a main feed in the middle, and then that feed is all of the different groups that you belong to. So you can click on your home button. You have the ability to join groups. So by default, groups are private. As the group creator, you can actually choose to make it public or not. So in our district, we've set it up that everyone is part of the district Minga, the district group, and then we have school groups, and we upload student first name, last name, and email address, and it sends the kids an invite, and then they can accept the invite and join Minga, and they get access to the district, the school, and then any other groups that are joined. They can join any public groups, or you can request to join any private groups. So we have things like, there's like the district chess club, or there's different groups now that are kind of popping up. But then the school actually has the ability to go and, obviously communicate with their students. You have the ability to post content. Minga has its own built-in studio. So it creates like little memes and posters and graphics and things like that. You can post just regular posts, which are a picture with some text with links and things if you need to. You can add videos. There's a photo gallery. You can create events, announcements, polls. There's alerts too. So, we think about the way things worked before the pandemic when we were connecting with our students all the time. Classrooms might have a reader board with messages going out and students could get messages and things that way. That disappeared when the kids weren't in the building all the time. And so schools have started to use Minga as a way to communicate with students. And then on the flip side, it's how do we get students to communicate with each other and create those positive learning experiences and really have them kind of utilize this tool. So I'm going to stop the slide share for a sec, just because I have kind of Minga loaded up here. So you can, oops, probably didn't need to actually stop it. I'd already had it queued up. So everyone see my Minga account? Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is a little bit of what it looks like. There's some little basic information. If there's announcements and things happening, you kind of get this little like bulletin at the top. And then I was working with school yesterday. They tagged this picture of their pink shirt day at the school. And what you're seeing is my Minga feed. And because if I look at my groups, I'm a member of like 4 different school groups. All of those feeds blend into one feed for myself. But if I was only a student, I was only part of one group, then I would just see the district feed and the school feed. So you can go to the home, there's a little calendar if there are events and things happening in there. You have the ability to see groups. So these are the groups that I'm part of. There's also the ability to see all of the groups within the district Minga and the ability to create groups. You obviously have the ability to restrict that depending on the level of access. So teachers can create their own groups. Students can't create their own groups unless we wanted to give them the ability to do that. You have some notifications, and then here's the ad piece. And so you can actually go in and use the Minga Studio or post videos and all of those things, as well as the back end, which has your profile settings and your preferences, your notifications. So do you want to be notified every time that someone posts something on Minga? Like, you have control of that as a user. So we thought we needed to spend a lot of time kind of sharing the actual tool itself, but really how we're leveraging the tool in our district. So one of the things that we actually have seen is there's different ways to create content. So the Minga Studio is great. And there's a link there, and you can actually click to little support video. It shows how to use the Minga Studio. So the nice part is it is built in, so you don't need to have a lot of graphics experience or anything like that to create really good looking posts for students as well. But we've used other tools like Canva, Pictochart, Google Slides, really, so you can use free tools to create really interactive, cool looking posts as well. And that's some of the work that we've been doing with schools, is trying to get the kids to be creators of content, right? Create some things. I'm working with a school right now, and they're doing a whole health and wellness piece. And we're going to use Minga as a way for the students to communicate out. They're creating little public service announcements around certain health issues, and they're going to use Minga as a way to communicate with their peers the messaging and stuff that they're getting. So that's one of the ways that we can create content. Graham, do you want to start off this next part? Sure. Okay. So we just want to highlight basically 3 ways that we are using Minga in our district right now, kind of 3 unique scenarios, little stories. And one of them is with one of our secondary schools. The principal kind of reached out and said, first of all, we're missing this communication piece. And so we said, well, we've got the tool for you. But then they also said, what we're really looking for is a way to try and get students to be a little bit more reflective and communicate on their core competencies, right? Reflect on the whole social competencies, personal, social, critical thinking competencies, those BC core curriculum pieces. And so we said, well, you could use Minga to do that, and how might we help you? And so what we actually went and did is we just spun up a Google slide deck. We co-created this with the teachers at the school and kind of shared out, say, hey, we can use Google Slides. It's a super flexible tool. What are our intent and purposes? What's the audience? What's the purpose? we want it to be real and authentic. We don't want to be finger wagging saying, don't do this, don't do this. We want kids just to basically reflect and think about it, speak directly to the kids. And in fact, we've even gone a step further. We want kids to be thinking about this, creating some of this content themselves. So we used Google Slides and we created like memes, little things that would just be like short little things that students kind of connect with, current, viral pieces that are in the media, stuff like that. So here's, the picture of Bernie saying, you do you, never be afraid to be yourself, ties into that personal social competency. We had obviously when the storming of the Capitol, thinking about that, having students go like, this is the world I live in. How are they contributing to the world, right? What are they doing to make the world a better place? So short little bits. And the cool part with Minga is you can create a bunch of these and you can schedule them as content to be released. And so we had it scheduled. So, like there was one of these coming out like every week or every Thursday, they would get a little reminder about those core competency pieces. I'm watching Modern Family with my family right now. And I'm like lots of other students and things that I've talked to are like, oh, that's such a great show. So we're like, hey, let's use a little pop culture, get them thinking about what makes their family modern and unique. So, I mean, those are quick, easy ways to try and reach out to students, communicate, have them reflect on some of those pieces. Graham, are you gonna want me to stop sharing then? Okay.
Yeah, as Tobias was chatting there, like one of the big things that he mentioned there too is just the ability to schedule, which has proven to be super, super useful for schools because, for your September, I realize that we want to be emergent, but you can also go and schedule all those special days that you have in there or just different campaigns. And so speaking of that, what we went and did is we went and made actually a digital wellness campaign for our district. And so you can see that, right, Topes?
Yeah, it's a little zoomed out, but that's fine.
Yeah. And so we had this digital wellness Wednesdays. And so we just trickled this out. And, I'd be lying if I said like the conversation that we had on this was at any depth quite yet. And that's definitely a growing edge for us. But the hope was that we might get a little bit of conversation like going around some different things. And so these, of course, you might recognize these because they're very Instagram-ish, but were made in Canva. And we just wanted to kind of provoke some thinking. And then the neat thing for us, because we're in district roles, is we can blast the entire district with this to try to get some conversation going. And the neat thing that trickled down is some schools where maybe, there weren't quite as many students using it, the teachers actually went and took this content and then were using it in their classroom just as a provocation. So, just to show a couple, we had one on practice mindfulness, another one on practice mindfulness right here about this idea that, it's less about how much time you're spending online sometimes and more about what you're doing. Not everything is equal. We talked about our digital wellness video there that we had already showed you. We even have, as part of digital wellness, this concept of being safe. And so we want to, unpack what does it look like to make quality passwords. We talked about the humans of bushry piece already, and then another one on passwords. We are really leaning into this concept of spreading positivity. And so there's this term called slacktivism. I don't know if you heard about it before, but it's where we tend to, as a culture, we go online and we like to like a lot of things. We might like something around the Black Lives Matters and think that we're actually doing something to change the world, but we really aren't. And so this was a prompt for, great, how can you actually move to some action? And so a bunch of others, about, even inviting students to track some of their usage. And so that was one campaign that we had. And then another one, I'll just really quickly show you. So it profiles a bunch of students in our district right here. And so what we did is one middle school that I was working with as part of my role was really interested in this humans of bushry idea to try to give everyone kind of a face and a name at the school to tell their unique stories. And so this little kiddo right here, you can see that this text actually goes quite a bit more if you click on more here. But it just allowed everybody, especially during pandemic times, but we know that this happens all the time otherwise, is that students kind of slip through the crack. We don't really know that they're this amazing artist at home, or they're really passionate about basketball, whatever the case may be. And so this school, what they did is they invited all the different students in this one cohort. So this, I think it was like about 50 students in this one cohort. They started making profiles of everyone to try and tell those stories. And so Tobias and I, we just really paint this picture as we're just getting going. We took a very invitational approach in our district this year. It was not a thou shalt. Every school didn't have to do this. Some schools, you know, like the OKM and the Cannon Falls, that are actually both located in the Mission, really were interested in this and have started, you know, trying to find their space in it. And that's something that we're going to kind of continue to roll out. But again, we think it has some leverage. It's neat that we're finally engaging students. We love that students are playing around with social media in a safe way, where we can kind of help pick up the pieces when things go offside. We have had some things go offside, but again, it's great learning that these kiddos are having because they're at least doing it in an environment where, like I said, we can pick up the pieces rather than in Instagram or something like that, where it might be in some ways kind of too far gone, right? Lastly, and then we're going to throw it back to you to see what your kind of thoughts are on all of this. But we've supported some schools. It's been bumpy. We actually did not have this plan that I'm going to communicate to you right now beforehand. And as you can imagine, when you go and try to do anything new with a school community, if you don't have a plan, it's likely going to fail. And it kind of did in some cases. And so we've kind of learned through like trial and error. And we created this document. And it's basically just a planning template. If you actually click on this document right here, it'll take you to this. And it's a communication plan. So you can go and use this for yourself. Just to kind of show you a little bit, it just has a bunch of considerations. All it is it's a Google slide deck that we have a bunch of different tabs that you can kind of click on. You know, we kind of tried to do, we broke it down into the who, what, why, where, when, essentially that you might want to consider when you're doing Minga. You know, who's going to lead the rollout at your school, who will need to be added, you know, who will have ability to post content, all these different kind of considerations that we found are going to inevitably come up. So we thought, why not just give you the questions that you're going to get at some point. So if you see any benefit to that, please feel free to take it and use it as you see fit. I think we've branded it like with our school district, but I don't really care. You can do whatever you need with it. Yeah, so what we wanted to do at the very end here was, and we don't necessarily have to use the Padlet. This room was a little bit smaller than we were we thought it might be. So I just wonder, you know, reflecting on what Tobias and I shared about the different ways of using Minga, you know, what are your next steps? Do you think this might have a place? Is it something you want to investigate more? Did you have any big takeaways? Yeah, I wonder if I can just kind of open it up there. If you'd rather go and use the Padlet here, that's totally fine. Just to kind of state your responses. Selfishly, we also would like some kind of feedback on, you know, what your takeaways were and what those next steps are. So any way that you'd like to interact would be fine. Any thoughts? I'm trying to work on my break or my wait time here.
So I have a quick question. If so, students can put out a message that would then go to potentially like the whole school or the whole a group, but they can't message each other one-on-one. But they could
Yeah,
teachers
well,
one-on-one.
you can almost set it however you want. And so I'll share,
Okay.
like in our district, for the time being, we do not have the direct messaging turned on. So now everything is moderated. So if there was something going on between student to student, and we did have it turned on, we would at least have that data. We just thought that that was not something that a switch that we wanted to turn on right away. And then when I talk about switches, all those switches are kind of there. So you can have it where students can post to a group, and you can have it when they can't post to a group. Maybe they can only comment on it, right? And so I think what we have is for our schools, students can comment, but they can't post original content. But like if you had the chess club at your school, you would probably want to turn that on so that everybody can contribute. In addition, like Tobias talked about like school teams, and again, I don't know what this might look like in your context, which because I know we have a lot of online school people here, but you have the ability that you can also invite parents into the fold. And so we have some schools that have done that. And again, not probably appropriate for a parent to post to an entire school, but very appropriate for a parent to post to the grade 9 girls basketball team, right? So lots of different ways you can customize it. Hopefully that answered that. Any other questions, even just about the tool or wonders that you have, or about some of our digital wellness work? I'm just reading some of the chat here finally. I like the idea of communicating in such a way with so much variety and usefulness with the entire community. Yeah. Yeah, I love that post from Whitney. We often hear that parents are not comfortable with their kids using different social medias, and yet we know that kids are too. You know what I mean? And so I actually think, and this might be really useful for some of you. I think the sweet spot for this tool is actually middle school, if you ask me. And why I say that is that's when we know, and maybe even later elementary grades, that's when kids are starting to experiment with social media and really trying to figure that landscape out. Again, I like that students are experimenting with it in our capable hands, in something that's a little bit safer, because we know once we get to high school, kids are going to want to use some of those authentic tools to them. They're going to want to have YouTube channels. They're going to want to, be on Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat and all those things, which I think is great. And our approach in our district is trying to be a bit more proactive than reactive. Why not give these kids these skills that they need to be safe and learn about their digital footprint so that they're not crashing and burning? Because I think so much of what we've tended to do is we've tended to turn away from some of these tough issues. And so I like that we're trying to equip kids with some of those skills to tackle them.
Yeah, and I mean, I think George also spoke to that this morning in the keynote too, right? He said if you wait till secondary school till the kids are leaving, we waited too long. He actually showed the little, the video, obviously, the funny video of the toddler cutting the umbilical cord and things like that. But at some point we need to be giving kids these skills. So when do we start that? Do we start that, in elementary school? Do we start that in middle school? Our middle schools in our district are, 6 to 8. And so it's funny because a lot of the teachers that are asking for this, the ones that we've worked with, I think are mostly grade 6 teachers, aren't they, Graham?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. So that they're in middle school now, and these teachers are looking to give kids the opportunity to grow these skills. But I mean, we've had a few elementary schools reach out as well and wanted to, dabble with the tool and start thinking about how they could use it in their context as well.
I like that question from Jason. Laura, I don't know if you mind. Would you mind kind of commenting on how it's looking in your context? Because I know in speaking to Jason from Minga, he said that you guys have had some success.
Hi, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm at home with my tiny one today and she's making all sorts of noise in the background. I apologize.
No worries, thank you.
We've had so much fun with it this year. Our littles started off with lots of show and tell style, almost like, share your Lego creations, share, something you baked at home with your family. And then we really launched into clubs after that. So now we have some art clubs, music clubs. We're doing recorder lessons, posting little ideas for getting outside into nature. Yeah, I actually found, I was surprised that I thought we would have more engagement in the middle school years, but our K-5 or K-6 crew has been the most active, and with some parent support and guidance and engagement from them too. Some families chose to just have a parent account and they'll post as their young kiddo, and some students have their own account. So we really just kind of put it out there to families to choose what worked best for them. We're a pretty small school. We have under 400 students. So we've really engaged parents as a first step and then launched into students second. It's been really fun.
I appreciate that. Thanks, Laura. I think, yeah, you said it well. I mean, I may be wrong when I say that middle school is the sweet spot. It may be more kind of like that preteen, the grade 3, 4, or 5, that as kids are really starting to kind of, first start playing around with kind of social media, that might be where this fits really, really nicely. We do have a bit of a suspicion that also once things thaw out and we have, again, I'm speaking to kind of the traditional brick and mortar public schools, but when we have those traditional clubs and sports teams that get back on, I think that this has been a real missing link, how to connect those teams and opportunities. Right now, it's funny, schools don't have a lot of fun opportunities going on, right? But when they do, this is going to be a great way to get some of that messaging out to kiddos, which we're excited about too.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen everything. We've seen, some schools say whatever, Friday is, post your pet day, and just get kids to get to know one another. Monday is meme day, and kids get to, certain students get to go and create their memes or find their favorite meme and share that. That idea of building community, I think is where we see the real value in the tool. Sure, we as adults want to communicate out to students. We know that there's a need to communicate with students there, but the real value would be the students coming together to learn, to then share, to connect with one another. I love the idea, like, through the clubs and all of those pieces as well. So
maybe the last thing I'll kind of give you, because I see that we're just about out of time here. We're not getting any kickback from our good friends at Minga for this, at least not that I know of. Hopefully it's in the mail. But I will say, so we've been working with their CEO quite a bit, Jason Richards, and he's been fantastic. And the part I will say is I'm blown away. I've dealt with a lot of tech companies, and I know it's tough. Like for us as educators, we're like, why can't you just move the button from here to here? And they're like, well, it'll take us, 9,000 hours of manpower or $10,000 to get it done. I can't believe how nimble they've been into changing the tool. Like for instance, we said we need a different district role, and within like 2 weeks, he had it for us. And so anyways, they've been really responsive. It's neat that they're in our backyard. It's a British Columbia tool. So, I see good things from them. So I think it's, a team, at least for the time being, that you can trust.
Geneva had a question there. Have we worked with the student leaders in Minga? And so that's one of the roles that's in Minga, where you can actually create a student leader, which is pretty cool. And so that's actually with the OKM school, when we were sharing and how we originally created the content for the core competencies. Our plan was, and we met with the leadership teacher there and said, how cool would it be if your kids were the ones creating the content to now communicate out? And so we did. They created a little club, or they've kind of done it. We've actually given student leaders the ability to post to the OKM's school Minga, like to the whole school. And so it's that leadership team is the one that's doing some of that work, which has been pretty cool to see, like students now starting to engage in that. And we've seen that at another one of our high schools as well. KSS has that, where the leadership team, the kids are doing things like the spirit days and all the other stuff, but it's the kids posting the stuff, not necessarily the teachers.
Thank you. That's great.
Yep.
I think that's all for us, though, for the most part. I see Pam, you just unmuted yourself. Good timing, I think. As always, Tobias and I, we're happy to stick around if you do want to pepper us with any questions. But it's been a pleasure. We think there's some potential in this tool, and if you need anything, feel free to reach out to us. I'm sure our emails are littered somewhere in the attendees, so you can get in touch with us. We're from School District 23, and we'd love to help you out.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you so much, Graham and Tobias. It's really interesting to learn about this and what's happening with everybody else. And if you haven't been into the Kumo space yet, check that out. I was able to give it a dry run last night as we were prepping, and it's a really interesting other tool for online connection. So go have fun with that. And thank you so much for prepping all this for us and sharing, and hope to see you all in some more sessions later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Yep. See ya.
Have you guys tried out Kumo Space?
No, I never heard of it. Yeah.
I hadn't either until last night. Go check it out. It is really.
How do you spell that? Kumo?
KUMO space.
Yeah.
So I think it's going all day, and you just go in, and it's free, which kind of blew me away. And it's like a virtual chat space, but like we have a cafe set up, we have a bar set up. And
okay.
After 12 o'clock, so you're welcome to go to the bar now, I think.
Is it kind of like those, like, is it almost like a Bitmoji classroom like people have been playing around with, or like where
Probably.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so like your avatar is your video.
Yeah, sure.
And you're
like, I see. Oh, funny.
Yeah. and you have like a circle of where you can hear. So there could be a bunch of people in the room, but your proximity to people bases the volume at which you can hear them. So if somebody's at a different table, you can't hear them, and they can't hear you, but you can roam over there and see what they're talking about. And
right.
Yeah. Neat.
All right. Well, thanks for having us on, Pam, and taking care of us. And
that was great.
We'll see you guys around.
Okay. Sounds
Thanks,
good.
Pam.
Bye.
Yeah.